Yeah.
But I mean, really, I mean, yeah, they fused together, but really, the child was rendered rather inert and just made some whining sounds, whereas the mother was truly what transformed into the monster, the hunter. The kid was just there and kind of out of it. And he became this lumpy thing in and through her back and torso. I mean, I wonder if that was a decision made, but like creatively thinking of cancer, tumor, or if this is just something creative team came up with on their own. I don't know.
Jeez.
But
Jolie Richardson needs a raise for that licking water out of a bowl scene too. She put the work in. But no, John, that's a great question. But I think that's a good question. I think this movie raises good questions, if that makes sense. I think, I don't know. And I like when Nicolas Cage doesn't kill. He actually quotes The Exorcist, which I learned from an interview, when he's like, get out of here. And you think he's going to kill Joey Richardson, but he doesn't. And then the alpaca murder scene.
mm-hmm.
Oh no, that was after the alpaca murder scene. That was very Thing-esque, but I also think that, did Lovecraft ever describe something like that in his books or his short stories or novellas? Because
So I remain baffled to this day that whenever I Google Lovecraft and The Thing, I don't find any credit given to the story for The Thing to Color Out of Space. The Thing specifically strikes me as a more grounded, less fantastical, just aliens exist version of the Color Out of Space. And the amorphous forms, they date back to artwork in the 70s. These weird amorphous multi-limbed conjugate amalgamate beings that exists in Lovecraftian lore. It's just maybe not anything so specific as The Thing or the clearly Thing inspired llama scene, but like these weird distortions, this is part of what touches people with madness. They see into the void and they see things that their mind literally can't comprehend. And it's these horrors. In the Mouth of Madness touched on that a lot too.
yeah,
So the answer is like yes, absolutely, but not absolutely.
I think they found a really interesting and maybe shrewd and their own variation of it, if that makes sense. They found a way to kind of adapt it to what they needed, but also make it seem different.
Yeah, I
Which,
mean, it seemed like a good honorarium to the Thing, though. Like
yeah,
I think they were enjoying that, and I loved the visual. They did a good job with it.
I mean,
It's funny
Richard
about
Stanley loves practical effects, man. So he loves the work that they did on the Thing. I mean, that's a practical
so
effect miracle, that movie.
when I posted my requisite movie and beer pairing on Instagram,
Yeah.
the director Alexei Smirnov, the director of the Russian movie The Super Deep,
Yeah.
commented on it. And
Ooh.
because I really enjoyed his movie and I guess he started following me. But he said something that shocked me too. He said, in spite of the criticism, like this movie did not, in his view, wasn't well received, The Color Out of Space. He said, in spite of the criticism, this movie was a breath of fresh air for me. I wish there were more films like this. The soundtrack to the movie was amazing. And my last project, and he's referring to the Russian movie The Super Deep, I borrowed a lot of ideas from this, both in color palettes of light in the frames and in the sound design. And also, as it turns out, in the creature design, because there's a big, conjugate amalgam of human bodies in there that is nightmare fuel.
Wow. Yeah, I
But
gotta watch that. I gotta watch
but
Super D now.
but now that shocked me though that apparently, at least in his view, or I didn't necessarily pay a lot of attention to broad critical reviews of this, but this maybe wasn't super well received. Whereas in the horror community, as far as I saw online, this movie is a treasure.
I do think so. It is fresh, and I do think it's in the high 80s. This movie. Let me look right now. I think it's 82. Yeah, it's 82, and then
Okay, I wonder what he's referring to then.
but it's 6.1 on IMDb, which isn't great. But I do think, John, you and we exist inside a movie bubble where we appreciate
A beautiful one.
Yeah, a beautiful movie bubble. So for me, I think Mandy is one of the most beautiful movies I've seen in decades. I could say that too. We're getting old, John. But I think I wouldn't recommend it to many people aside from, um, what's the word, cinephiles. Like, I'm not going to tell my mom, hey,
Sure.
mom, go watch Mandy. So as much as I love Mom and Dad, but the thing is, you understand who the directors on that. They're the directors of Crank who made Mom and Dad, so you understand the film. Richard Stanley, you know about his visual work and you know about what he brings. So I think when people watch Color Out of Space and they're I think part of, maybe if they're mainstream, if they aren't part of the horror indie community, they don't think what the creature from Session 9 is one of the scariest thing that's ever existed, who still haunts my nightmares. But they just come for it for Nicolas Cage's freakouts, for his car banging, for his change of accent throughout the film. I don't think they. So I think that could be a criticism where, because it's not a pretentious movie, John. This is not a pretentious movie.
No.
It's not an overly violent movie. It doesn't take you through the ringer like a Korean film like I Saw the Devil or Thirst. I don't think it's interested in that. I think it might even be a little bit more accessible than In the Mouth of Madness, because there are time leaps, but there isn't this totally nonlinear weird town. I think it's quite accessible. So yeah, I just think the criticism would be someone going in to watch a bad Nick Cage movie, then they get a good Nick Cage movie. And it's just, does that make sense? Because we just have to, I've really tried to look at myself as living in this movie, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful movie bubble. But I could see the complaints if this isn't what you're expecting.
Like, you see Nicolas Cage, you assume you're going to laugh a few times.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know, but maybe those are some of the complaints, because I don't think this movie's never precious too. Oh, it's 86% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's huge. 70% Metacritic.
That's really good.
But this movie also, it's never precious. Sometimes I watch, and people are gonna hate me for this, but like I'll watch like a Midsummer, or I'll watch. Uh, I'll probably people are hating me right now. You diss A24, you get slaughtered. But you watch some of these horror films, and some of the moments feel very precious. You get really sort of stilted dialogue. You get a really wide, long shots, and none of them are really necessary, but they have this preciousness to them. I don't think this movie has it either. I don't think it's pretentious at all. I just think it's a good old creature feature with some cosmic forces in there and Nick Cage. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that was a long answer
It's
again.
a journey. This movie's a journey. You know, most horror movies, or sci horror, or whatever you want to call it, I just call it horror though. Most movies aren't really journeys. The characters all transform in one way or another over the course of this movie, and the literal landscape transforms over the course of this movie, and some of them physically transform, and some of them mentally transform, and they're clearly being affected even by time a couple times, and there not many movies do this.
No, no,
I you
no.
know, even when people refer to like some emotional or huge transformative like character change throughout a movie, it's usually a character, and the world around them is reacting to it, or they are reacting to the world reacting to them, right? Whereas this is everything in their microcosm of their household and their plot of land is changing, and you can track it through time. So the movie, it's not like it just feels different in the end because now we know there are monsters in the beginning. It's literally a sliding scale that you keep moving with the progress bar of the screen time. This is an unusual phenomenon. And again, the characters are changing, the monsters are changing. Oh, there are those flowers. Now there are more of those flowers. Now other things are purple. Nick Cage is freaking out when the car doesn't start, and now there's a hazy mist of purple, and the tree is a little oddly formed. Right? All this stuff keeps happening. His rash, which never amounts to anything, but it's there. We just know that these changes keep happening.
And I mean, and
it's neat.
By the time the mom gets hit, the time Teresa gets hit, they're affected as well. So they're not going to make the 12-mile walk outside of their property. Their car doesn't work. They're already caught there. They already have that pull. So it does make sense while they're still there. You watch a lot of movies and you wonder, why don't they run? But I think these people were so ingrained, and also too, the changes don't come that fast. And I mean, would you leave your mom if she and your brother got glued together and became this creature? Like, it asks interesting questions, but by then they're already losing their minds. They already having time jumps. They're having bloody water sinks. They're letting the alpacas out. I don't know. I do think there's a couple issues I have with this movie. The well scene doesn't really hit that hard for me. It feels.
Do you mean the end when Benny?
Yeah, when Benny just goes, "I'm going in the well." I know he's affected. I know he loves his dog because that's a great acting dog, by the way. But I do think that one isn't really earned, and I also think the fake fog work in this movie is not the best. I've seen better fake fog work before because you could tell it's fake fog. Those are my two complaints right there.
Okay.
I just had to get those. What did you think about Benny's
No,
death
well,
in the
I'm
well?
going to agree about the Benny thing, that his death does feel the least earned. That now that you're saying that, it really resonates. And honestly, when that was happening, every time I watched the movie, I'm like, couldn't he take 3 seconds to get a better look down there at what he was seeing?
Yeah.
Like, and then like, was it really so important that he rushed down that moment? Because if that's the dog is treading water. It's not like in the next 2 seconds it's going to. The dog's been down there a while. Like it's. So there was kind of like a false urgency that we see in a lot of horror movies. It's almost like the panic that makes you drop the keys needlessly outside the car and then even inside the car.
And you have 75 keys.
Then you drop it on the car floor and you go down, then you come up, and then there's the killer's face through the window. Like there was a lot of urgency in that. And really the creature payoff of that was, to me, it looked neat. It's neat to know that exists, but it was a less payoffy thing as well. I don't fault the movie for having it, but I definitely acknowledge that was a weaker additive. But you know what? In most horror movies, that would be a great scene.
That's the problem with really great movies, right, John? Like when there's a really excellent movie, when there's something that rings a little false, it sticks out like a sore thumb. But if you're just watching a popcorn entertainment horror picture that was just meant to, kill teenagers, it has all these scenes, but you're just rolling with it because you're on that movie's wavelength. But when something is really striving for excellence and it does a little something to take you out of it, I think that's when you really notice it. It's like watching an NFL player trip. I don't know, for lack of a better comment. It's like watching Tom Brady throw a bad pass. You're just thinking, what was that?
It's like an offense.
Yeah. Yes. When there's that object of perfection that you see and then they trip or they pick their nose. You're like, oh, I hate them now. I think there are these glaring, even if this took place in another movie. And listen, I do love when Nathan says he's in the well now. That's really funny. I enjoy that. But yeah, that's the one scene that didn't feel earned because you understand why Teresa and Jack are fused. You understand Lavinia's, which is really interesting what you said. She almost begins to kind of be it. She almost forms with it. And Nathan, he goes mad, but he also doesn't shoot Teresa. He doesn't shoot the cops. He keeps some form of sanity in his insanity, which is quite interesting. So yeah, I don't know, because you establish he likes the dog, but it's never built in that much. But it's a good dog actor. You know what though, John? If my cats were in the well, I'd just put the bucket down there, I guess. I don't know. I'd climb down. I would. I would risk cosmic fury. Ooh, that'd be a good movie. I would risk
Cosmic Fury.
I would risk cosmic fury to save my cats. That I would do.
That sounds like a B movie where Nazis have a moon station.
if G-Spot were in a well, I would go save G-Spot because it's a cat. Get it?
The name
it's
of
funny.
the cat for the listeners.
Oh man, but I also too. Sorry to interrupt. I like this family because they are dysfunctional, right? But they do sit on the couch together and enjoy TV. They laugh when he just looks like a complete bozo on TV. When he says it's time to do dishes, they have fun with the dishes. So it's interesting that they like each other, but then they also have gone their own way in their own right. But it's an interesting family dynamic because sometimes you watch a family, and for me with horror movies, I've always felt more dread when the family likes each other, not just like a divorced couple being attacked by strangers. Or a couple who they're about to split and they really don't like each other. I mean, I get you have that plot to bring them close together, and then they get killed, whatever. But I like I like the dynamic with this family because they did like each other despite themselves. It felt more of a believable family dynamic